You are listening to the Thriving Empire podcast with Stephanie Holland, episode 25. Welcome to the Thriving Empire podcast, where it's all about stabilizing the roller coaster of starting up so that you can launch your ideas with more passion, purpose, and vision. I'm your host, strategist, traveler, and coconut macaroon addict, Stephanie Holland. So let's get started. Hello, how's it going? So before we get started, I have a rather grand question for you. Would you like to hit the reset button on your life and work? Because here's the thing, if the answer is yes, and you'd like to kickstart or restart your ideas, or just the way you show up for your business and life in general right now, the 7-Day Visionary Leadership Challenge is coming up in a few weeks, and it's open for registration right now. So, what happens during this challenge is we literally hit the reset button on your life and work so that you can build momentum around your ideas and the way that you work with more passion, purpose, and vision. So you can register now by heading over to stephanieholland.co/live. And we're going to kick off live on Sunday, 2nd of June with what amounts to a 20-minute prep session so that you can schedule when you're going to do the daily work during that week. Now, what happens, the reason that I call it live is because I do it with you each round. So we do it every 4 months. I share my homework with you on video, which is kind of cool. So you get to see how I use it in my life and work as well. I've been using this process for a couple of years now, and it's really worked magic for me in my work. So join me for that. Head over to stephanieholland.co/live to register. So now let's shift into today's podcast. So if I were to tell you that you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, how would you feel about that? So think about the qualities of the top 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, does that idea give you joy, or does it scare the crap out of you? Now, you may not have heard of a guy called Jim Rohn. That's R-O-H-N if you want to Google him. But you may have heard one of his famous quotes. You are the sum of the top 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, just quickly, without thinking too hard, who are the people you spend the most time with? And are they positive, inspiring, and supportive? Or are they something else? Now, I ask because creating a community around you filled with people who inspire, empower, and support you is fundamental to your startup trajectory. It's fundamental to your mindset until you've mastered the ability to manage your mind regardless of anyone or anything happening around you. Now, there are very few people who can do that. I guess Gandhi did it. I think Byron Katie is in the process of mastering it. There's Tony Robbins, people like John DeMartini, but very few humans master it. So that's why it's so important to create that positivity around you. Now, if you live with your romantic partner, likely they are the one you spend the most time with. And that's why I dedicated the whole last episode 24, to that relationship and why it's so important to have clear communication and support from and with them consistently. So this episode, we're going to cover the rest of your community, because consciously creating your community is a really great way to manifest momentum around your ideas. So we're going to talk about your friends, your family, your startup community, whether real or virtual, and your teachers and mentors, both in person and online. So let's start with your friends. Now, friends can be the fire under your butt or the lava that destroys everything in its path. So don't underestimate their power to catalyze your vision or to annihilate it. So starting your business is an incredible filter for friendships. It's a real test for their integrity, actually, and it can really replace a previously seemingly positive dynamic with fear and jealousy and envy and resentment and low self-esteem and the fear of being left behind, as their own beliefs and emotions about what's possible for them is confronted while watching you challenge what's possible for you. So yeah, there's a huge fear of being left behind. What if you succeed? Where will that leave them? What if your success leads to bigger and better things for you and they get left behind in the dust? Where will that leave them? So, this is not about excluding anyone, but it's about paying attention to the quality of your relationships, how they change as you embark on new projects and new stages of your life, and how those dynamics, as they change, how they make you feel as you're wading into new personal territory for yourself. So you really need to get an idea of who your inner circle is, who uplifts and supports you, and just spend more time with them. So all you have to do really is make a list of maybe the top 10 people you spend the most time with on a regular basis, and just take a moment to think about whether they are positive, trustworthy, supportive, uplifting, or not. Now, these 10 people are the people who will have the biggest impact on your life, art, and business in general. So make sure that you're spending time with people who are mostly positive, uplifting, and supportive. So let's talk about family. Now, family can surprise us the most when we start up. Now, some of you will be surprised by their unfailing support, and some of you will be surprised by the lack of it. Now, this is really funny because when I was 5, my dad let me know the deal, his point of view. He said, and bear in mind, I'm 5 years old. Stephanie, I don't care if you're a successful businesswoman, a housewife with 5 kids, or a street cleaner. I'm giving you an education, and that gives you the power to choose to be whatever you want. Now, it's pretty funny considering I'm 5. That gives you an idea of, how businesslike my dad is, and very cut and dry, which has many positive sides to it. But that declaration had the support of the universe in it. Can you imagine at 5, do whatever you want? You are empowered to do whatever you want. And yet, he hasn't read either of my books. And if you ask my mum what I do, she wouldn't have a clue how to describe, my role, my title, what I do in my business. Because to them, it really doesn't matter what I do. As long as I'm somewhere along the spectrum of surviving and thriving, they're totally fine with all of it. So family can be a safety net. I know that my family are always there for me if I need them. I'm not going to end up in a ditch. I'm not going to end up homeless. So they can be a huge safety net for some of us. But maybe for you, they can also be the greatest challenge and threat to starting up. They're the ones who usually say, how on earth are you going to make money doing that? Why on earth are you giving up a perfectly good salary to start something you don't even know, what you're going to create or how successful you're going to be? So there might be no safety net at all as well. Maybe your parents have passed away. Maybe you don't have a relationship with them at all. And maybe they just don't want to show up and support you. But here's the thing. What's happening there, if they're around but they just don't want to be supportive, they are just trying to keep you in their own glass bubble of fear and worry. Remember in episode 20, we smashed through your glass bubbles? Well, your parents, your family, they have glass bubbles too. Now, when parents aren't supportive, it's because many of them have given up their dreams before you were born or when you were young, and they worked hard to sustain their financial, emotional, and physical well-being. And despite not being entirely convinced it was the right choice for them either, they are going to be slightly reluctant for you to break the mold and step out of that comfort zone that they find comfortable. Like many in their generation, the term digital nomad wasn't even a conceptual possibility, nor Kickstarter campaigns. And for them, a pension fund was a reality. It was a way to retire and enjoy life when you were older. So many of them just don't get it, and that's totally okay. The trick really is to think of them as, regardless of their support or lack of support, think of them as your first high interest investors, where, their most important investment in you is just their emotional support. Just saying, you know what, maybe I don't agree with you, but I support you to make your own choices. That is the most important investment they can make in you. So to really sell them on your ideas, you really need to explain what you're doing, why you're doing it, your true motivations behind it, as well as the bigger picture you have envisioned in your mind. And I have a worksheet on how to do that in the podcast pack that you can grab in the show notes, stephanieholland.co/25. I'll tell you more about that at the end as well. So let's talk about your startup community. Now, this is about meeting like-minded people who are where you are at. the same place you're at in your business journey, whether it's just starting out or maximizing your scope and scale for world domination. Now, all over the world, there are entrepreneurship hubs and creative communities and collaborative workspaces popping up all over the place with one goal: to help you launch your ideas into the world. So they host public and private events, seminars and workshops. They often offer training and mentoring programs as well, and social events that connect you with your inner entrepreneur and other like-minded souls who are also craving some form of growth and contribution. Now, along with basic office and work facilities, they may also have things like empty spaces where you can host your own events, gallery space where you can host your art, and creative studios for hire where you can really build and make things like TV shows and videos and all sorts of stuff, as well as screening rooms. So say you're an artist and you've just made a movie, live performance spaces, you name it. They pretty much cover all bases. So depending on what you do and what you're looking for, these communities pretty much offer something for anyone and everyone on their startup trajectory. So at the beginning of your kind of startup community, you might just love mingling with anybody who's trying something different, who's starting a business for the first time. And then later on, you may wish to find a niche community in your area of interest or expertise or your particular industry or category. So whatever works for you, whatever stage you're at. Now, these places are hotbeds of creativity, connection, collaboration. You can make new friends and perhaps even future business or networking partners. So some of them organize free and paid events for people who want to make the big leap from the corporate world as well. So they even start at that stage of your journey, as well as I already mentioned startup strategies and training and such. And some have thousands of members globally who organize their own meetups in cities around the world. So if you fancy coffee with another 5 people, if you've read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich and want to start your own mastermind, that might be a way to find your like-minded people. Now, there are also a ton of online communities associated with online business training programs. I belong to one with over 25,000 women in it, and I really enjoy it as a way to help others with their questions and challenges and get help with my own. It is so cool. So go ahead and Google local spaces in your area and go along to the next event. So who knows what ripple effect that will create? That could be pretty cool. Okay, so the last section is talking about your teachers and mentors. So there are 2 kinds of teachers that can fast track your trajectory towards your goals. One are those who teach about business and entrepreneurship, and 2 are those who are doing and succeeding in what you want to do specifically. So your product or service niche, your category, your industry, your area of expertise. So firstly, obviously you want to learn about business, right? Especially in your product or service niche within your chosen business model. So at each stage of business, you'll likely have a different teacher or mentor teaching you exactly what you need to learn at that stage to get to the next stage of your business. Now, listen, the biggest mistake I made, and that I see my clients making too, is following too many business gurus and teachers and investing in too many online business training programs simultaneously. Now, what happens is that you're either doing too much, learning too much, and trying to implement too much at the same time, or you're just so overwhelmed by all this sort of online training and study that you end up doing none of the training you invested in. And that's actually one of the reasons I'm phasing out bonuses from all of my offers, because it's just extra content that serves to overwhelm us. And we're overwhelmed enough as it is. And frankly, personally, I'd rather pay a premium for a really simplified, streamlined program without bells and whistles. That, bells and whistles just, yes, they give us a sense of value. They make us buy, but instead they add confusion through too much information rather than simplifying it. So sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but I really need to write that episode on authentic marketing, don't I? I mentioned that a couple of episodes ago. Anyway, so what stage of business are you at? It's really important to know this. What do you need to learn right now to get you to the next stage? Do you know the answer to that question? So if you're not sure your idea will fly, you're going to need to learn how to validate your idea. If you're not sure what business model is best for you, you're going to need to study various business models and see how that aligns with how you want to live, how you want to work, what your audience wants, and what products and services you want to create. If you're not sure how to create a website, then you're going to need to learn the right website strategy for you, so you can either do it yourself or hire someone to do it for you. So each stage or step requires specific knowledge, training, and focus, right? So I recommend you follow one business teacher or mentor at a time who teaches you exactly what you need to know right now, and then consume everything they have, all their free stuff and all their paid stuff that's relevant to you. Now, of course, what I'm talking about is what you're doing in your business training time block. So the areas of your schedule that you have allocated to business learning, okay? Because likely you're already working on your business and you need to keep working on your business. You need to keep making your stuff. You need to keep selling your stuff. You need to keep working with clients. So this specific thing that I'm talking about right now is what you're doing in your business learning and education time block. This is your learning and education that moves your business forward. So regarding your business gurus, don't underestimate their free content. Now, most people, it is the fashion, the trend, to be giving away 98% of their best content for free, because that's about helping people get results ahead of time. And it's a very cool marketing strategy. So if you're smart, you need never invest in those giant $2,000 training programs that are all the rage right now. If you're really smart and strategic with your time and can be really organized and disciplined with your business and with your learning and education, then you could probably use someone's blog or podcast to train yourself. It's a bit like getting the university textbook reading list. Instead of going to university all the time, you just grab the reading list and you go through the books and study by yourself, right? You could do that. So go ahead and sign up for their newsletters, their Facebook, their free Facebook groups. Read their books. Oh my gosh, I love their books. And listen to their podcast. There is so much quality content out there available for the price of a book or less. So just make sure you have a really good book or podcast on the go all the time that you are consistently learning from. Now, when you've learned all you can from that mentor and you're ready to move on to the next stage and focus on your the next stage of your business, unsubscribe from that mentor and move on. So, maybe you want to launch a podcast. Find a mentor for that. Maybe you want to turn your podcast into your business. This is what I'm exploring right now and actively looking for a mentor in that field that resonates with me. Maybe you want to launch an Etsy store. Find a mentor for that. Maybe you want to learn Instagram as a way to grow your business. Find a mentor for that. Maybe you want to launch a membership site. Find a mentor for that. So remember that episode I did on extreme focus? That was back in episode 3. Know what you need to focus on right now and then focus 1,000% on that during your business education hours. Now, I actually have a really neat tool that I love, which helps me sort of unsubscribe and streamline all my email newsletters really easily. It stops my inbox being flooded with emails. It's called Unroll, Unroll. And it sends me one daily digest of all my email newsletter subscriptions. It is so cool. And I can either open that digest or ignore it. I absolutely love it. It really keeps my inbox free of everything. And I'm telling you about it because at the risk of you putting my emails in there and not reading them, oh my God, I'm going to cry, your inbox can actually be a huge cause of mental stress without you even realizing it. But I know that if you love my podcast, you've subscribed, right? So wherever you're listening, whatever platform, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, just click subscribe now, right? So if you do put my emails in there, we will still be in contact. So now, the second kind of teacher is the kind who has succeeded in the area that you want to succeed in, and maybe they've packaged their how they did it formula into some kind of training program. So for me, the best example of this is Brooke Castillo. Now, she makes $15 million a year as a life coach, and what she's done is she included her entrepreneurship training in her one-year coaching program, which was a huge incentive for me to sign up for the program. It's absolutely brilliant. Brooke Castillo. I learned her strategies, tactics, and mindset tips for business from someone whose business I really admire. So that was a huge turning point for me, studying her entrepreneurship training. So it doesn't matter what field you're in, yoga or jewelry or health or wellness or coaching or consulting or whatever you do, find the people you admire. And even if they don't have a business training program, you can still study their business strategies by studying their website, their communications, their sales and marketing strategies, how they package and offer their products and services. There's so much you can learn from people just by observing what they're doing and how they're doing it. But a note on this is be careful not to copy. Now, I think at first it is really hard not to copy because you can't imagine another way to do it. This is all quite new, right? But as you practice your own message and your own way of doing things, and you mix and match the ideas that work for you as an experiment, you'll develop your own blueprint, your own way. And maybe one day you can package it and sell it as a business training program for the rest of us, which would be super cool. Because essentially that's what people are selling, what works for them. So today we've talked about your community, your friends, your family, your startup community, your teachers, and your mentors. Now, between those 4 areas, you are going to cultivate the most powerful community you can imagine. Now, if you have the podcast pack, you can crack open worksheet 4.5 to do a community assessment and consciously curate a powerful community so that you can turn it into rocket fuel for your ideas. And if you don't have the podcast study pack, my goodness me, what is this all about? You can grab your copy at stephanieholland.co/25. Now, community will inspire you. It will really push you forward. It will pick you up when you need it most. And the power of collective wisdom is so much more than the sum of its parts. When you're starting out alone, it can really surround you with friendship and support if your friends and family aren't doing that very well. When you feel like giving up, there will always be someone there to push you the extra mile or just for you to lean on while you offload, while you do a bit of venting. And on those days when you want to quit, you can reach out to the collective wisdom for motivation, which is really cool. When you've run out of ideas, you can tap into the collective creativity around you. When self-doubt creeps in, there will be someone to remind you of who you are and why you started in the first place. When you have this community framework of accountability around you, you also have even more reasons to keep following your ideas, even when you have these intermittent failures or days when you just feel like you're over it. So, all these benefits can be had from a real face-to-face community, a book by a trusted mentor, or a podcast, or a virtual mentor in their online business training program. So use them. They are like rocket fuel. Your community is your rocket fuel. So don't forget to head over to stephanieholland.co/live for more information about the 7-day Visionary Leadership Challenge coming up soon. You can find out more information there and sign up. I hopefully will see you over there. Otherwise, I'll see you right here again this time next week. Have a beautiful week. Bye.